What's your take regarding the accusation by President Trump that TikTok is stealing information of American users for Communist Party?
Well, it is really a concern that has been not just observed by the Americans and Canadian parties, official ones, but really there's been independent research that puts China in a very tight spot, understanding that they are, in fact, performing information control over what is broadcasted over TikTok or WeChat, and that for that matter. And for that sense, people have been reporting and in the labs and how you can observe the traffic exchange between a user who wants to just chat with WeChat or exchange some files with TikTok, and has been seen that some of the information is flown back, is then redirected back to China for what has been determined as information gathering by the PRC. So for that sake, the federal government in the US decided to act upon this. And of course, we cannot escape the fact that it becomes a bargaining chip in some way, in some political discussions, but technologically, it is one avenue that the president of the US wanted to protect as much as possible the privacy of the users. And I do agree that it does not escape that American platforms do perform some of that kind of information gathering, as we say, but for sure, the privacy policy back with the China's TikTok and WeChat are very different than any European or North American companies that will perform social media and offer that kind of service to people. So it is really on the basis of protecting the privacy of people that the decision, I believe, was taken by the US administrations.
But TikTok and WeChat already denied that it shares data with the Chinese government. So what is your take on their claims here? Is there any evidence that proves that they did or did not share with the Chinese government?
Yes, there are several research papers out there that exist that has proven that kind of activity, that covert activity of taking information, personal information of people, but especially deleting some videos that are talking against the Communist Party of China. And for that sense, it goes like people just want to use these platforms to, again, be creative and make some interesting artistic discoveries and just show their personality off of these platforms. But when you have that kind of control from any company that as we know from China has a certain control or let's say orientation voice to redirect, if not control, what's being programmed, if not just carried by these platforms. Now, one would say it is kind of innocent that a platform that is meant, like TikTok, to produce funny videos, and especially most of the users of that platform are teenagers, and they just produce, like you're showing here, cat videos and dancing videos. It seems very benign. But behind the fact, for an intelligence agency, they could use that kind of information, especially localization information, to verify if they have a subject of interest. Well, they could target the family of that subject and then gather more information on their whereabouts and could become a more complete dossier on which they can act upon later.
Steve, so if TikTok has been transferred to American companies, for example, Microsoft or even Twitter, as they are trying to negotiate, how can American privacy or American information be protected? We would be in a better situation.
Well, the oversight is a little bit different how it happens in the US. As we saw a few weeks ago, you had the Google, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook come into a congressional hearing. And so the representative of the people were asking very hard questions to these four presidents of those companies, and they had to be a little bit more transparent about how it is. And we saw 2 years ago how Facebook was again brought into the shining lights of the representative of the people, and they got them to those representatives, the senators and all, got to ask to the very I call them the crunchy questions that all people have on their mind, so they could be a little bit more transparent one. And especially those companies in the US are very sensitive to the impact of what people are saying and about their reputation. So if it goes that these companies, most of them being public, if they take a plunge financial wise, this definitely could impact how they can grow later on. So that is that main difference, I believe, that an American company, or let's say Western company, could how it could evolve by having this kind of service. And it's very interesting. As an example, if Microsoft gets the TikTok portion of ByteDance, it means for them a reach of hundreds of millions of users more to either one, sell their products again, or two, having a broader spectrum of collecting more information from these users. Even if it's anonymized, it's a treasure trove for them in order to gather that information and put it in good use to, again, present a better product. So that's how most modern companies will take advantage of such platforms that are very popular, and will just go after the data, not just the content, but really how the people interact with it.
So which one is more possible between TikTok being bought by an American company and TikTok and WeChat being blocked by the US government? Which one is more possible in your perspective?
I do believe, and it's really a special market, and TikTok would be just the European and North American market that will be taking over. That is the proposition right now. And if it is much more appealing than simply blocking off, because technically it would be very hard to go everywhere and consider every means possible how to block completely one such big platform that is international. So one could think, yes, the telecommunication companies will be able to block it off at their end, but there's always backdoors, not to say technical means, that you could use as a VPN, as an example, to connect yourself to another country where it permits to use that kind of platform. So you will circumvent the blocking and the policies in place in order to benefit the use of that kind of platform. So I do believe it is much more an advantageous position to go and rearrange the legal structure and administrative structure. So one company will be managing it here under the commercial rules of the United States, and by such will permit the people to continue using that platform, but in a different with different sets of rules.
For the internet world, is it too extreme in your perspective, Steve, that so suddenly leader of the US announced to block TikTok and WeChat? And what will happen to other Chinese apps? And in the end, would it mean that the real division between Chinese internet and the US internet?
Well, this is one action that the United States took, as you know, Nathan. And we had also India that took also a similar action a few weeks ago, especially because of a special context, a conflict that was happening in the northeastern part of India at the border with China. So they decided to cut off the use of that application for especially the military deployed over there, in order to prevent the Chinese government of spying on the troops on the ground. So that was one reason that the Indian government acted upon that. Same thing happening in Australia, and the US did the same kind of evaluation back in September and October of 2019. And after that report from the intelligence community, they decided as of December 2019 in the TSA, so the security at the airports, and the US Army, to ban completely the TikTok from being used by the personnel and later on in the federal government. So that decision, I believe, is based on sound research that they've done, and most, again, in the government and some other private parties done their share of research, and brought the decision to what we are witnessing right now. So that said, it is certainly very extraordinary that happened. But when you look at it from the other side, from within China, there's a lot of public platforms, or social media platform, we should say, that are not accessible to the Chinese people, and they would be very much interested. But because of that kind of filtering that is happening in a communist country, for them, from the inside, they don't have any possibility to voice out their concern and voice out their desire to get access, let's say, only to Google to get the most out of the world, the internet. So the information is really still tightly controlled inside. And when it happens on the way around, when the Chinese information or platforms are controlled on the outside, of course, they will voice out that it's not fair. But again, is it fair for the Chinese people? I don't think so.
So let's say if I'm in the United States, I have TikTok and I have WeChat on my phone, and if the US government does ban these apps, will I still be able to use these apps after the ban here?
If it comes to a ban, again, which I don't believe, which will be very easy to implement, but if it is, it will mean that the application itself will not be able to connect back to Chinese connections that is necessary to make the application workable. But again, there are countermeasures about this that can be possible, can be easily used in order to go on and be reconnecting back to China. But then again, I don't know how, if they put forward how fast they will want to implement that kind of measure. That's another thing to consider when you're banning things on the internet.
Steve, what's your view that national security has been the main reason for any government to put into force to try to block application of other countries?
Well, it goes into, Nathan, the possibility that, again, the critical infrastructures of a country gets spied on, if not taken advantage of. I mean, this is one, the applications here is one. Here in Canada, we still have the problematic, the legal debate about Ming Wanzhou, which is the CFO of Huawei. And for that reason, the deployment of 5G back here in Canada was held back because of these negotiations. We have 4 Canadian citizens that are being held against their will in China on supposedly charges of drug importation and drug reselling, which to my sense is bogus. But the diplomatic channels are really edgy on both ends of the discussion. Now, that said, back to the technical discussions, all telcos from here, from Canada, took the initiative of going with other companies than Huawei. And then Canada is left as the only country that it hasn't taken a clear decision upon their 5G destination, meaning Japan went without Huawei, the US, Australia, New Zealand, even in Europe, there's a lot of countries that went without Huawei, some went with. And for that, it goes to that direction that they want to, especially you saw, I believe, the large list of Chinese companies that have been banned to deal with between US businesses and China, and the list gets lengthier as the time goes by. So it is a commercial conflict, I believe there is, with China and the US, but we're getting also dragged into this involuntarily, because there's collateral impacts on our economy, as I believe, as you have also on your end. So for that sake, we hope this gets resolved, but I don't think it will get resolved in the near future. But with the coming US elections, I believe this will be a strong point for the candidates by which to debate on how they will resolve that kind of conflict, because all the economies, I believe, across the planet do suffer from these kinds of situations.
So does it mean in the future that as ordinary users, we have to be used to and be prepared to try to use system from China and the US? I mean, to have more equipment to support the system from China and the US at the same time?
I don't believe I truly understand the question, Nathan. Sorry.
I mean, because ordinary users probably around the world perhaps need to try to prepare ourselves to get used to division between the US and China over the internet and all the system on 5G and network. So we have to be prepared in terms of equipment.
Equipment-wise, I mean, any application will be transparent to whatever infrastructure on which they're going to be used. It depends on how the government filters that use of those technology. So if you go to a country which is prone to surveilling a lot of these citizens, they will certainly look at what type of application will be used there. It's not uncommon to see countries that are completely blocking either Twitter or Facebook, preventing people from then connecting online and making themselves available to broadcast whatever they feel like. While other countries like what we're mentioning here, probably in the US and maybe other Western countries, will want to block WeChat and TikTok. But I believe they have a bigger advantage of moving on and just selling off, asking ByteDance to sell off the TikTok and WeChat portion so they can benefit from the continue serving the users and benefit from the data collection. Um, Back to the technological issues, certainly it has been proven a lot through a lot of situations in recent times that unfortunately technologically implicated companies by China do perform some kind of espionage in some way and form. That said, it's not systematic, but has been proven over time. And for that reason, it's a problem that it's hard to detect and it's hard to go by. And many government agencies or many government entities are not willing to step forward and firmly say enough is enough, because besides the US, there's not many countries in the world that can confront China, especially not Canada. So that's why I believe the politics are very, very delicate about that topic.
Steve, last time when we chat in the program, it was about COVID-19 situation in Canada. So how is it going?
I believe it's very stable right now, like most countries across the world on the northern hemisphere, because southwards it's winter. We are at a stable condition. A couple of cases here and there. The federal government put on a exposure notification application as of July 31st. It's in test mode in one province, and they want to propagate this in many provinces across the country in the near coming future. But that said, it's not an epidemic so far. It has been very much on the rise since it's been in March, April, and May, but on the downslope as summer is right now around here. But as schools, it is expected as schools will reopen, there's a lot of concern that this will just start all over again. That second wave, they're calling it, will just make people more in contact in public spaces than it is the case right now. And they expect the number of cases per day just to grow as we go into winter, though. So everybody will be reconfining themselves naturally, as we do all year, every year, when we go inside. So that said, the official health authorities are concerned about what's coming down the road. But fundamentally, people are just enjoying the nice warm weather that we have this summer. For some, it's unfortunate they cannot travel very far, but that gave us an opportunity to rediscover sometimes the unknown places and not too well-known location to go enjoy our great country and the province here. So that's one big advantage I take from this. And we'll see how it's coming down the road. And I believe it's been going down well on your end also, Nathan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Are Canadians having issues with wearing masks in your country? Because it seems like many countries are protesting against the use of masks.
It is the case. And yes, there's a lot of protests. People just want to stay clear of any physical apparel that they have to wear, especially the mask. But then again, it's a marginal protesting, because most of the population do understand that wearing the mask will prevent the spread between two people. And in public spaces, in open air, it's not mandatory for now to wear one. But as we go inside of businesses, like when we do our groceries, it is understandable to wear one, as there's a lot of people concentrated in one point. So of course, the basic hygiene rules are to wash your hands, of course, wear your mask, and keep a distance about 2 meters. That will be the most that people will respect for now. And of course, the number of gatherings. So the public gatherings right now are limited to 250 people. And with private residences, up to 10 people, it is recommended by the health authorities, 10 people from only 3 addresses. So it's a weird mix of rules that are applied here. But so far, people have been respectful of these recommendations by the health authorities, because they do not want to be reconfined for a long period of time in the coming months.